There's a moment in every woman's life when she feels like she's reached her end. When the heartbreak, the failure, the silence feels louder than any hope. But hear me today, girl, get up. You are not buried, you are planted. And planted things grow, even when it looks like darkness has swallowed them whole. You are not forgotten. You are not too broken. You are not too late. Girl, get up. I know the weight you carry. I know the tears you hide, but you were built for this. There's a calling inside you that still speaks, even when life tries to silence it, and it's not too late to answer. You see, the enemy thought he won when you fell, but falling isn't the end. Falling is just the beginning of your rising. Girl, get up. You don't have to have it all together to get up. You don't have to be perfect to move forward. You just have to decide that the pain you're carrying isn't heavier than the destiny waiting for you. Get up, even with tears in your eyes. Get up, even when fear shouts louder than faith. Get up, because inside you is a woman who knows how to survive. And more than that, a woman who knows how to thrive. This is not your ending. This is your becoming. Girl, get up, because your future is still calling your name and heaven is cheering you on. Sometimes life feels like it has thrown dirt over every dream you dared to believe in. You find yourself stuck in dark places, buried under disappointment, heartbreak, failure, and fear. The weight feels unbearable, the silence deafening. It's easy to believe you've been buried, forgotten, abandoned, discarded by the world. It's easy to think that what you're going through is the death of everything you hope for. But the truth is, what feels like burial is actually planting. You are not buried to decay, you are planted to grow. When a seed is planted, it is placed under layers of earth where no light reaches. It's cold, it's lonely, it's hidden. No one applauds the seed. No one sees its struggle. Yet, under the surface, that seed is preparing for something greater. It's transforming, it's stretching. It's breaking through its shell because what's coming is too big to stay hidden forever. You too, in your hidden, quiet seasons, are undergoing a transformation that the world may not see, but heaven is watching, and your roots are digging deep. We don't often think about the purpose of darkness. We cry out for the light, for the easy paths, for the quick victories. But real growth, lasting, powerful, soul-deep growth is forged in the dark, in the soil where no one is watching, where no one is clapping. You are becoming stronger than you ever thought you could be. Your faith is getting its foundation. Your heart is learning how to hope again. Your spirit is being trained to believe beyond what your eyes can see. There's something about darkness that demands authenticity. When you can't see your way, when you can't fake your strength, when you can't rely on public applause, all you're left with is what's real. And sometimes, the most real parts of you are only revealed when everything else is stripped away. That's why dark seasons are necessary. That's why the planting is painful, because it exposes what was shallow and gives rise to what is deep, what is lasting, and what is truly powerful within you. The world will often mistake your hidden season for a lost season. They'll wonder where you went. They'll whisper that you fell off. They might think your silence is defeat. But what they don't realize is that roots don't grow in public. They grow deep in the quiet, secret places where no one is looking. Every tear you've cried, every prayer you've whispered in frustration, every moment you chose to stay faithful when it didn't make sense, it's all watering the seed of your future harvest. And just like a seed doesn't immediately sprout after it's planted, your breakthrough may not happen overnight. But T to this says, growth is a process. It's silent at first, it's slow. It demands patience. It demands trust. The planted season demands that you believe something is happening even when you can't see it. It demands that you trust the one who planted you, that you believe he didn't leave you there to die, but placed you there to become. And sometimes believing that is the hardest, yet most critical thing you'll ever have to do. The darkness you feel is not a coffin. It's a womb. It's a place where life is being formed, where destiny is being developed, where you are being prepared for something far greater than you can imagine. What looks like an ending is actually a beginning. What feels like silence is actually sacredness. The soil around you isn't suffocating you. It's surrounding you with everything you need to be stronger when your time to rise comes. So don't despise your dark season. Don't resent your hiddenness. Don't rush the process. Everything planted in the right season, under the right conditions, produces a harvest that is worth the wait. You are not forgotten. You are not finished. You are not buried. You are planted. We live in a world that celebrates standing tall but shames falling down. Let shames falling down. We are taught to fear mistakes, to hide our weaknesses, to mask our humanity as if falling somehow disqualifies us from purpose. But the truth is, falling is not the end. Falling is not failure. Falling is a part of the journey that leads you to a greater strength, a deeper wisdom, and a more powerful comeback. It is not a sign that you've lost. It is a sign that you are still moving, still fighting, still reaching beyond where you are now. The world tells you that if you fall, you should be ashamed. But heaven tells you that if you fall, you are still loved, still chosen, still worthy. Every fall, every stumble, every misstep is not wasted. They are the proving grounds of your character. They are the soil where resilience is born. They are the fires where faith is forged. You can't rise without falling first, because falling teaches you how to get back up with more grit, more grace, and more gratitude. If you look closely at every great story of victory, you will see a thread of falling woven through it. No one who has ever done anything worth remembering got there without scars, without losses, without moments of weakness. Falling humbles us. It reminds us that we are human. It strips away pride, and in its place, it plants perseverance. Falling doesn't ruin your story, it refines it. It makes the victory even sweeter because you know the cost of getting there. When you fall, it can feel like the world stops. The fear of what people will think, the fear of never recovering, the fear that maybe you aren't who you thought you were. All of it can shout louder than hope. But the voice of truth cuts through that fear and says, you are not finished. You are not your mistakes. Falling isn't a period at the end of your story. It's a comma. It's a pause that leads to something greater, something stronger, something new. Sometimes the fall itself reveals strengths you didn't know you had. When you're flat on your face with nothing left to prove, you discover the raw, unfiltered parts of you that are braver, wiser, and more determined than the polished version the world usually sees. What to me? You find the fight that was always inside of you, the fire that doesn't die out in the fall but instead burns hotter. Falling strips away the illusion of control and invites you into the real freedom of trusting what's bigger than you. In many ways, falling is a doorway. It's messy and painful, but it opens you to growth that standing tall never could. When you fall, you start to ask deeper questions. You start to rebuild with stronger foundations. You begin to create not from pride, but from purpose. You see yourself differently, not as someone who needs to be perfect, but as someone who was made to overcome, to rise again and again, no matter how many times life tries to push you down. Every fall has a lesson. Every fall has a hidden treasure if you're willing to look for it. Sometimes falling teaches you who your real friends are. Sometimes it teaches you what truly matters. Sometimes it teaches you that losing something you thought you needed was actually the greatest gift you could receive. Falling clears the ground so you can build something better. It shakes off the dust of comparison, perfectionism, and fear, and lays the foundation for a more authentic you. If you've fallen, don't hide. Don't shrink back. Don't let shame write the next chapter of your story. Look at the ground beneath you. Gather your strength and get ready. Because falling is not your ending. It is the sacred beginning of your rising. There's a dangerous lie that tries to convince you that you must have it all figured out before you take your next step. It whispers that you must be healed, whole, flawless, and fearless before you can start again. But that is not the truth. You don't need perfection to move forward. You don't need to have every wound closed, every fear conquered, every question answered. All you need is the courage to decide, I will not stay here. I will get up anyway. Too often, we sit in waiting rooms of life, hoping to feel ready, waiting for a moment when all fear disappears, when all pain evaporates, when the perfect conditions arrive. But life doesn't work like that. Growth doesn't wait for perfect timing. Destiny doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. Forward movement begins in messy places, with trembling hands, with uncertain hearts, with shaky steps. The miracle isn't in the perfection, the miracle is in the movement. There is something powerful that happens when you move while you're still broken, when you choose progress over paralysis. You are telling your pain, you don't get to be my prison. You are telling your fear, you don't get the final word. Every small decision to move forward, even when you feel inadequate, is a rebellion against the lie that says you're not enough. Forward motion, even at its slowest, even at its messiest, is still motion, and it still matters. When you demand perfection from yourself before you begin again, you are setting up an impossible standard that keeps you stuck. Perfection was never the requirement, willingness was. Willingness to trust, willingness to hope, willingness to try. Life doesn't ask you to be fearless, it asks you to fear less, to trust more, to believe that even broken people can build beautiful things when they have the courage to begin. Some of the most powerful moments in your life will happen when you move scared. When you say yes with your voice shaking. When you show up even when your heart still aches. When you refuse to wait until everything feels easy before you chase after what's calling you. Moving forward is not about pretending you're okay. It's about believing that even as you heal, even as you learn, you are still capable, still worthy, still chosen. Waiting for perfection delays your destiny. Waiting until you have no weakness denies you the opportunity to be carried by grace. Strength is not found in having no wounds. Strength is found in choosing to rise with them. Your flaws do not cancel your future. Your uncertainty does not cancel your calling. He desires your persistence, your heart, your yes. Every step you take in imperfection is a seed planted for a greater harvest. Every tear-streaked prayer, every shaky breath, every quiet, stubborn decision to move again is heaven's evidence that you are still fighting for the life you were born to live. You are still reaching for something greater, even when you don't feel like enough. And that reaching, that deciding, that getting up, it shifts things, it changes atmospheres, it writes legacies. So don't wait to feel perfect. Don't wait until you feel fearless. Don't wait until you have no doubts. Decide today, even in the midst of your mess, even with all your cracks and questions, that you will not stay stuck, that you will rise, just as you are, and move toward the life that's still waiting for you. There are moments when your circumstances will shout so loudly that they try to drown out your dreams. The pain will echo in your ears. The disappointment will roar. The obstacles will rise up like mountains before you, daring you to believe that you have been forgotten. But even when life screams that it's over for you, there is a voice inside, soft but steady, quiet but relentless, that refuses to die. That voice is your calling, and it speaks louder than the chaos around you. Your calling is not tied to your comfort. It is not dependent on how easy your path is. It doesn't retreat when storms come or when life gets heavy. Your calling is a flame planted deep within you, and though the winds of hardship may blow, they cannot put it out. They might bend you, they might bruise you, but they cannot break the destiny that was spoken over your life long before you faced a single struggle. Circumstances are temporary, seasons change, pain ebbs and flows, but what you were born to do, who you were born to be, remains. Your calling was written into your DNA. It was whispered over your spirit when you were still in the secret place, before anyone had a chance to tell you what you couldn't do. And that calling will keep speaking, keep pulling, keep stirring inside you, even when your circumstances try to convince you to give up. There will be times when everything in your life looks like the opposite of the promise you carry. You will wonder how you're supposed to build when you feel broken. You will wonder how you're supposed to lead when you feel lost. But that's the beautiful tension of calling. It doesn't rely on your present situation. It's anchored in your future. It calls you forward when everything around you tells you to settle. It calls you higher when everything else tells you to shrink. Sometimes the louder your circumstances, the louder your calling must become inside of you. You will have to choose which voice you listen to. You'll have to silence the noise of fear, of scarcity, of insecurity, and lean into the voice of destiny that keeps whispering, there is more. You are more. You'll have to turn your ear away from the discouragement of the moment and tune it to the frequency of your future. Your calling isn't intimidated by the valley you're walking through. It's not shaken by the delay, by the detour, by the depth of the pit you might find yourself in. In fact, sometimes the greatest awakenings happen when you realize that even in your lowest place, the fire inside you still burns. Even when everything outside you is falling apart, the voice within you reminds you that you were made for more, built for greater, and destined for victory. It's easy to believe the loudest voice is the truest voice, but the truth often speaks in a whisper. It doesn't demand your attention, it invites it. Your calling won't always shout over your circumstances. Sometimes you'll have to be still enough to hear it. You'll have to quiet your soul long enough to recognize that no amount of trouble, no level of pain, no stretch of delay can undo what has already been spoken over your life. So when the weight of what you're facing feels too heavy, when the noise of your reality grows deafening, lean in. Listen closer. Beneath the sound of everything going wrong, there's a deeper song rising. One that says you were made for this, that your story is not finished, and that your calling is still alive, still fierce, still louder than anything standing against you. Pain has a way of convincing us that it's the final authority. When it comes, it demands center stage. It grips our hearts, clouds our vision, and makes it hard to see anything beyond the hurt we're carrying. It is real. It is heavy. It is undeniable. But what pain doesn't tell you, what it doesn't want you to know, is that even deeper than the ache, even stronger than the breaking, there is a power inside of you that was built to overcome it. Pain may visit your life, but it was never meant to have the last word. You don't have to deny the reality of your pain to access your power. You don't have to pretend you're not hurting. Strength isn't pretending you're invincible. Strength is standing in the middle of your brokenness and choosing to believe there's still more ahead. True power is forged in the places where your heart has been bruised, but your spirit refuses to bow. It's in the quiet moments where you whisper, even with trembling lips, I will not be defeated by this. Pain will try to make you sit down and settle. It will try to convince you that your best days are behind you, that your heart will never recover, that your dreams are permanently broken. But pain is a liar. It shows up loud, but it doesn't see the resilience stitched into your soul. It doesn't know about the battles you've already survived. It underestimates the depth of the fire within you, a fire that pain cannot extinguish and fear cannot drown. There is a version of you on the other side of this pain that you haven't even met yet. Stronger, wiser, softer in the right ways, fiercer in the places that matter. Every tear you've cried has watered the soil of that version. Every night you didn't think you would make it, but did anyway, has laid another brick on the road to your healing. Pain has been a ruthless teacher, but it has been teaching you that you are capable of rising, even when it feels impossible. Power doesn't always look like loud victories or public wins. Sometimes power looks like simply getting up again when you don't feel like you have the strength to. Sometimes it's getting dressed when depression says stay in bed. Sometimes it's choosing to hope when disappointment has made you cynical. Sometimes it's forgiving when bitterness feels easier. Every time you choose to move forward in the face of pain, you are flexing a kind of strength that the world can't always see, but heaven always celebrates. Your power doesn't eliminate your pain, but it transforms how the pain defines you. Pain wants to label you broken, weak, defeated. But your power reclaims the narrative. Your power says, I have been wounded, but I am not destroyed. It says, I have been knocked down, but I am not counted out. It says, I carry scars, but those scars are evidence that I survived what tried to kill me. Mes scars don't prove weakness. They prove resurrection. There is a sacred beauty in realizing that your power to overcome was born in the same places where you thought you would be destroyed. You didn't just survive the fire, you are carrying something from it. Wisdom, compassion, endurance, a deeper understanding of your own worth. Pain didn't empty you, it shaped you. It carved out deeper spaces for hope, for strength, for love, and those spaces are what make you unstoppable. So even when the pain feels like it's winning, remember, your power is older than the hurt. It was placed in you long before the wounds came. It doesn't get smaller with the battle, it gets stronger. The very thing that tried to break you is building in you a resilience that no circumstance, no loss, no betrayal will ever be able to steal. There is so much pressure to have it all together, to wear perfection like a badge, to make sure that nobody sees the mess behind the scenes. But the truth is, you were never meant to be perfect to be worthy. You don't have to arrive at some imaginary finish line before you are allowed to be proud of yourself. You are allowed to be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the very same time. Your worth is not waiting for some future version of you. It is already woven into who you are right now. We live in a world that idolizes polished images and flawless success stories, but real life isn't filtered like that. Real life is messy, it's complicated, it's layered. Growth is slow. Healing is not linear. Some days you take 10 steps forward, and other days you fall back. But none of that erases your worth. None of that disqualifies you from love, from hope, from dreams that are still alive. Being in process doesn't make you less. It makes you real. You don't have to fake strength. You don't feel or hide the parts of you that are still healing. Growth is not shameful, Atadia. Progress is beautiful. Even when it's small, even when it's invisible to the outside world. Every moment you choose to keep going when quitting would be easier. Every time you show up for your own life, even when you're scared, that is evidence of your worth, not your failure. Not your failure. You are worthy not because you have no broken pieces, but because you are still standing with them. So often we are waiting to become enough. We think, oh, once I'm better, once I'm stronger, once I'm healed, then I'll be worthy of the dream, the love, the opportunities. But you are already enough, right now. Not the version of you who finally figures it all out. Not the version of you who finally gets it right. Worthiness isn't earned by achievement or perfection. It's a gift you've carried from the very beginning. There is a kind of courage that blooms when you stop trying to hide your becoming. When you can say, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still struggling sometimes, and that doesn't make me less. You set yourself free. You stop living in fear of being exposed as unfinished. You begin to realize that unfinished people change the world, that people in process build legacies, that the ones who dare to keep showing up with their imperfections intact are the real heroes. The parts of you that are still under construction are not something to be ashamed of. They are proof that you are alive, that you are still stretching, still reaching for more. The person who admits they're a work in progress is often stronger than the one pretending to have it all together. Because vulnerability breeds strength, honesty creates freedom. And freedom gives birth to growth beyond anything perfectionism could ever offer. You are allowed to have moments where you don't know what you're doing. You are allowed to have seasons where all you can do is put one foot in front of the other. You are allowed to cry, to question, to feel overwhelmed, and still be proud of yourself. You don't have to wait until you're finished to celebrate how far you've come. Every messy middle, every broken prayer, every stubborn breath counts. Every single piece of your journey is valuable. So stop waiting for a future, shinier version of yourself to believe you are worthy. You are worthy now. In the middle of the healing, in the middle of the learning, in the middle of becoming, you are a work in progress, and you are already enough. There's a certain kind of bravery that nobody talks about enough, the bravery of starting over. We celebrate the finish lines, the victories, the moments when everything finally comes together. But there is a different kind of sacred moment. The moment you realize you have to begin again. The moment you pick yourself up off the floor, brush the dust off your dreams and whisper, I'm not done yet. That moment is strength in its purest, rawest form. Starting over is not weakness. It is not failure. It is the declaration that your story will not end in the middle of heartbreak, disappointment, or confusion. It's looking at what didn't work, what fell apart, what hurt you, and choosing to believe that there is still more for you beyond this moment. It takes unimaginable strength to build again after you've seen things break. It takes deep courage to hope again after you've tasted disappointment. The world often glamorizes resilience as standing tall and never falling. But real resilience sometimes looks like falling 1,000 times and still choosing to rise on the 1,001st. Real resilience is letting your heart break and still believing it can beat stronger in the future. Starting over requires humility, admitting that what you built before may not be enough for the life you are now called to live. And it demands hope, the wild, rebellious hope that says, just because it ended doesn't mean it's over. There will be days when starting over feels like the hardest thing you've ever had to do. It will ask you to leave behind the comfort of what you knew. It will ask you to let go of the safety nets you built for yourself, even the ones that are frayed and torn. It will stretch you into unfamiliar places, demanding a deeper faith, a fiercer will, a wider dream. But those who dare to start again are the ones who eventually find that life still has beautiful beginnings tucked inside its endings. Sometimes strength looks like standing at the edge of everything familiar and choosing to take one step forward into the unknown. Sometimes it's waking up and deciding that today I will try again. Even if you're scared, even if your voice shakes, even if you don't know what tomorrow will look like. Starting over isn't about erasing the past. It's about refusing to let the past define the future. It's honoring what was while believing even more in what could still be. There is no shame in starting over. There is no shame in rebuilding from the ashes. Ashes are proof that something once burned brightly, and now there is space for something new to rise. Some of the strongest, wisest, most radiant souls are the ones who have dared to begin again when life gave them every reason to give up. They are the ones who turned endings into new invitations and setbacks into sacred comebacks. Every time you start over, you are testifying that defeat is not your destiny. Every time you rebuild, you are announcing that the story isn't finished yet. Every fresh beginning, even the messy, terrifying ones, are declarations of faith. Faith in who you are becoming, faith in what lies ahead, faith that no ending is wasted in the hands of a courageous heart. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to try one more time. So if you find yourself standing in front of a blank page again, know this. It's not a sign you're weak. It's a sign you're still fighting. It's a sign you're willing to believe in beauty after brokenness, in hope after heartache, in new dreams after old ones have died. And that is strength in its purest, most unstoppable form. Failure has a loud voice, and if you let it, it will try to rename you. It will whisper labels into your soul. Not enough, disappointment, mistake, and it will try to convince you to wear those names like heavy coats you can never take off. But failure is an event, not an identity. What you've been through, the mistakes you've made, the moments where you fell short, none of those things have the authority to define who you are. Your identity is rooted in something deeper, something unshakable, something no failure could ever reach. You are not the worst thing you've ever done. You are not the lowest moment you've ever lived through. You are not your missed opportunities, your broken dreams, or your regret. You are more than a bad decision or a rough season. Your worth doesn't expire when you fall down. Your destiny doesn't dissolve when you get it wrong. Failure might leave a mark, but it can never rewrite the truth of who you are unless you hand it the pen. It's easy to forget this when you're sitting in the rubble of something you thought would last. It's easy to look at your broken places and believe the lie that you're too damaged to move forward. But failure is not a final sentence. It's a chapter, not the whole story. And even chapters that feel messy and unfinished are part of the masterpiece being written through your life. You were not created to live under the shame of what didn't work out. You were created to rise, to learn, to evolve, and to keep becoming more. The world may try to measure you by your successes and your mistakes, but your soul knows a different truth. You are inherently valuable. Success doesn't make you more valuable, and failure doesn't make you less. You are already complete, already beloved, already enough, even when you're standing in the ashes of a plan that didn't unfold the way you hoped. Your identity isn't up for grabs based on the scoreboard of life. It was settled long before you won or lost anything. There is something powerful about standing in the aftermath of failure and choosing to still believe in your worth. It's a rebellion against every voice that said you weren't good enough. It's an act of courage to say, I messed up, but I am not a mess. I failed, but I am not a failure. I am still worthy of good things, of new beginnings, of a life filled with purpose and beauty. Holding on to your true identity in the face of failure is one of the greatest battles you'll ever fight, and one of the most important ones to win. When you stop tying your worth to your wins and losses, you set yourself free to grow without fear. You stop making safe, small choices just to protect your ego, and you start living fully, bravely, audaciously. Failure loses its power to shame you when it no longer gets to define you. It becomes just another tool for growth, just another part of the story you're telling with your life. And in the end, it will be clear that who you became mattered far more than how many times you stumbled along the way. There's a kind of strength that only comes from realizing that even your worst moments couldn't strip away your dignity. Even the things you thought would break you couldn't touch the core of who you are. Your spirit, your light, your purpose, they are untouched by the failures that tried to claim you. And when you rise from the dust of defeat with your identity still intact, you carry a kind of unstoppable power, a quiet, deep knowing that nothing you face can erase your worth. So if you're carrying the heavy lie that you are your failures, it's time to set it down. You are never meant to live with that weight. You are not defined by the battles you lost, but by the heart that refuses to quit. You are not the mistakes you've made, but the lessons you've carried forward. And you are not the broken dreams of yesterday. You are the living, breathing proof that grace, resilience, and hope are bigger than anything that ever tried to defeat you.